Okay, so for this first Swift build, we're going to talk about a topic that I'm sure you're all familiar with at some degree. It's about weak self. So when you write Swift, whenever you need to deal with some kind of asynchronous code and you're writing a handler, I think you're accustomed to writing this kind of boilerplate. You're going to first capture a weak instance of set, then you're going to guard to make sure that the instance is still in memory. And basically, that's the kind of code that you write a lot every day, and that's boilerplate code. It doesn't bring really any real value, so it would be kind of cool if we were able to encapsulate it and get rid of it, but how could we do it? So I'm going to share with you a solution to implement this feature. So we're going to begin by something very easy. We're going to define an empty protocol. We're going to call it wikifiable, and we're going to constrain it to only be implemented by classes because you only get a weak instance of a reference type. Then we're going to make NSObject conform to wikifiable. That's very easy to do because the protocol is empty, so there's nothing to do. And then we're going to finally start writing some code. So we make an extension of this wikifiable protocol. In it, we write a function called wikify, and we're going to focus first on the signature of the function because it's really important. So what this function takes as an input, it's a closure that takes an instance of self and returns void. So basically, it's the closure that we want to write, the closure in which we have an instance of self that we can use. And it returns a closure that takes void and goes to void. That's the closure that the API expects. And as you can imagine, basically, this function is going to bridge the two of them together. So how is it going to be made? So we said we're returning a function, so we start by returning a function. Inside this function, we are going to capture self. Remember that this is an extension of wikifiable, and this is an instance method, so we can definitely capture an instance of self. Then we are going to guard to make sure that the instance is still waiting around in memory, and if it is, we're going to call the code that was passed as an argument, and that's it. This is how you implement this wikify function. This is a glitch from Keynote, sorry. And of course, we've implemented it for handlers that take no argument, but some handlers are going to take arguments, so we can write a second implementation that's going to take an argument, so it's a generic argument, and you can see that it's the same logic. We are bridging a closure that takes the argument and the instance of self towards a closure that takes just the argument. And inside, the implementation is still the same. The only difference is that when we call our code, we are just passing along the argument. So that's it, that's been implemented. And now, when we write our code, we no longer need to write all this boilerplate. We just need to do wikify, and we write a closure that takes the strong self as an argument and the argument. And wikify is going to do all the magic of encapsulating this weak self guardlet dance, basically, that we had to write every time, and now we can do it in a very declarative way because we just say, I want a weak instance of strong self, and that's it. And since we write a lot of asynchronous code in Swift, you can imagine that if you use this every day, you're going to reduce the amount of boilerplate that you need to write in your project by a lot. So I hope you enjoyed this small idea. I hope you're going to be able to use it in your project, and I'll see you later today for another Swift tip.